Coaches make their preseason picks. It's Locked On Sunbelt.
You are Locked On Sunbelt, your daily podcast on the Sunbelt Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. I'm your host, David Schultz. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more as playoffs wind down and have winded down. The sports stop sporting like we want them to. But this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. All right, Dave Schultz, disappointed we're missing Sunbelt Media Days, but we started a new gig yesterday. Very excited about it. Come visit me in Kentucky. Anyway, let's talk Sunbelt coaches picks. Okay, so first of all, and I can't even say the media would do any better. Okay, the media has no idea what's going on. I know some people, Phil Steele does a better job than many, but it's tough to get because Phil Steele talks to each coach. So he bases his suggestions and his picks based on what each coach is telling them of each team of their team. A lot of these coaches are just getting to know their team. It's one thing if you're G.J. Kinney and Texas State or Sean Clark and App State. It's another thing if you're Bryant Vincent. It might be another thing if you're Ricky Ronnie and ODU, right? Like they're concerned about their team. You think that Ricky Ronnie knows what's going on with Southern Miss right now? Any idea? I can't imagine that. So I find it hilarious that the coaches make these picks. I'm not saying the media would be any better, but I don't understand the coaches making these picks, right? Will Hall has enough to deal with compared to worrying about JMU. So what you do is, and basically, I think they pick like I do for the most part. Coach is back, and who's the quarterback? That's where it starts and ends, basically. There was a little surprise, well, a couple surprises, I think. Let's go over them, all right? And I'm going to post. We're going to do the West first. We'll do the East, and then we'll do the preseason Sunbelt Awards. A little bit of a surprise, but not big. I think maybe a little bit of a cop-out, but not a big one. All right, so let's see if I'm going to try and put these on here so you can see what I'm reading, so it's easier to follow along if you're looking at it. All right, so Sunbelt West preseason picks. Texas State gets the majority of the first place votes. I don't think that's a surprise. G.J. Kinney, and they get the reigning Sunbelt Player of the Year. That doesn't happen very often. Usually the Sunbelt Player of the Year is gone. Done with college football. Jordan McLeod obviously transferred. He's there. What the coaches end up doing is they end up going with how good they were basically last year. And so we got Texas State because they get the Jordan McLeod effect. But Troy, I mean, who's playing for Troy, right? We got quarterback. We got running back. We got wide receiver, all new, and a new head coach. But 4 coaches pick Troy? All right. I mean, we'll see, right? I mean, you can't say that hasn't been done before because I'm going to guess that Jared Parker has more talent there now than John Summerall did when he got there. So there's a little bit of pressure on Jared Parker compared to everybody else. But 4 coaches picked Troy to finish second. All right. Cajuns get 1 vote, finish just behind Troy for third. So Texas State gets 9 first-place votes, 92 points. Troy, 68 points, 4 first-place votes. Cajuns, 66 points, 1 first-place vote. All right. And again, the one thing about the Cajuns is we don't know who the quarterback is. Is it going to be Ben Wooldridge? Is it going to be Chandler Fields? We mentioned a quarterback before. He's Samari Collier, no longer with the team. So it's basically Ben or Chandler, as of right now. And everybody else is loaded. It's all loaded as far as I'm concerned. We've been over this. Offensive line, tons of experience. Defensive line, tons of experience. Linebacking, experience. Defensive backfield, experience. Running back, experience. The best talented group may be the wide receivers. And we'll see how the punting works out. The kicker's pretty good, but we'll see how the punting works out. Cajuns pick third. Arkansas State, I mean, here's the deal, right? You got Troy with 68 points second, Louisiana 66 points third, and Arkansas State 65 points fourth. So those are basically all interchangeable. No one gave Arkansas State a first place vote. Again, feels like the coaches are doing the same thing the prognosticators are. We know you're there, but kind of prove it to us. We know you're pretty good. Come show us. Nonetheless, there's not a whole lot of delineation, and boy, is that a big word for Locked On Sunbelt, between Troy, Louisiana, and Arkansas State. All right, there's a huge gap between Texas State, 92, and Troy, 68. All right. South Alabama picked fifth with 54 points. Kind of a rebuild, all right, and a new beginning. But I think with, Gio Lopez there and Major Applewhite there, they can start to rebuild to what they were. Almost, it's not quite square one because everybody knows what's going on for the most part, although the coordinators are brand new compared to when Cade Womack got there. So two new coordinators. One, the offensive coordinator is not new. He left and came back to be offensive coordinator, new defensive coordinator. And and there's a lot of talent that a lot of talent that they have to replace. But I think they're better off than they were when Cade Womack got there. All right. Southern Miss, 31 points. That's all going to determine by the quarterback. Is it Tate Rodemaker? Probably. He is. They are sixth. And ULM got 16 points. They are seventh. So Texas State, your big-time favorite in the West. Troy, Louisiana, Arkansas State, 2, 3, and 4. Not much difference there. 68, 66, and 65 points. Then a little bit of a drop-off. South Alabama, 54 points. Southern Miss, 31, and ULM, 16. All right? And we're going to find out, Southern Miss can surprise, and I just feel that ULM is going to beat somebody that they're not supposed to beat. That's most of the teams that they're playing, but they're going to beat somebody that they're not supposed to beat. All right, we'll come back, and we will go to the East. When we come back, not a surprise who's picked to win it, but maybe a little bit after that. We'll do that after I tell you about FanDuel. I love sports. I love them so much, I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down and we get fewer games, the sports aren't sportsing like I want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app and dream up any bets anytime I want. I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. We'll get to recapping Sunbelt Media Days throughout the week. All right, actually have Wednesday off, so that's pretty good. So we'll get a chance to look it over on Tuesday and then watch what happens on a Wednesday. And so we should be covered pretty good for Wednesdays and Thursdays episodes. Pretty good. All right, Sun Belt East predictions. Again, no surprise here. App State, you're clear. Well, yeah, clear winner. App State gets 12 first place votes, 96 points. JMU, is that on reputation? 79 points. They get 2 first place votes. Again, I'm a big fan of Bob Chesney because of his experience, but they got a lot of guys that went out, specifically to IU. Or is it UI? No, it's Indiana University. And then they did get some players to come in. All right. I still think that's a tall order. Obviously, JMU has a standard. They've been extremely good for the last couple of years. Got gypped out not once, but twice of playing in the Sun Belt Championship game. But that's what they agreed to before they came into the Sun Belt. Still stinks. I don't care if they agreed to it or not. It still stinks. But they are picked second. Coastal Carolina, 67th. Tim Beck and Ethan Vasco. Those two guys seem to be headed in the right direction. Georgia Southern's all going to be determining on the quarterback. Again, we've talked about this as well. Clay Helton, first time he's been there, he actually doesn't have a starter set to go, right? He had the Tulsa transfer last year. He got Van Treese from Buffalo a couple years ago, so he knew who his quarterback was. He may know who his quarterback was, but he kind of let everybody else know who his quarterback was, at Sun Belt Media Days and heading into camp. I think they actually have maybe even a three-way battle for quarterback this year. So we shall see. Marshall, Charles Huff, 49 points. Again, that's going to determine on the quarterback. Can they get back to Marshall football, play defense, and run the football? Last year, they could not get off the field. The defense was a little bit of a sieve for the Thundering Herd. That was the problem with the defense. Even games that they won, right? They beat ODU, but barely because they couldn't get off the field. They kept on scoring and kept on giving up points to ODU. So that was an issue. Speaking of ODU, 32 points. They are picked sixth. So App State's 1, James Madison 2, Coastal Carolina 3, Georgia Southern 4, Marshall 5th, ODU 6, 32 points. I think that was yesterday's episode. I think ODU, a couple things. They have like the best home schedule in the Sun Belt. They have a tough schedule. They just have a tough schedule to begin with. It's going to be tough if they get off to a tough start. And Georgia State, new coach Del McGee picks 7th and 19 points. I would think that Del McGee and Bryant Vincent are going to be better off than we think. Georgia State is going to beat somebody that they haven't beaten yet, or that they're not expected to beat. Same thing. I think both teams will. Again, I just think teams are going to know that they played these guys. It's not going to be outside of turnovers. I'm not sure these games are going to get away. Now you get turnovers, and boom, bada bing. You could have Arkansas State, putting up 77 against Texas State, and that's all with turnovers and kickoff returns. Or the defense didn't get on the field, or the offense didn't get on the field. So it can get out of control, spin out of control fast. But if Georgia State and ULM can limit turnovers, I think they may be in some football games. And then you get into the fourth, and it's a matter of two things. Do the teams that are supposed to win panic? And can ULM or Georgia State finish? That's the thing. That happens all the time. When heavy favorites are in a dogfight, and it's the fourth quarter, when you should be up by 14 or 21, and you look up and there's 10 minutes left to go, and it's a 4-point game, can you drive down the field? And you're winning. You could even be winning. Can you go down the field and put the game away with a touchdown? Or do you get a couple of first downs, punt it away, and ULM, maybe even ODU and Georgia State, they got 6 minutes and they can go and win the football game. We'll see if something along those lines happens. All right. And so again, it's do we see the rest of it? Let me see here. I don't think they didn't pick a champion, right? They just picked the teams in order. So they basically have Texas State against App State in the championship game, which is, I think that's kind of chalk, right? That's what I'm picking. I don't think that's going out on a big limb. I certainly don't blame them for doing it. You're picking Joy Aguilar, who's the newcomer of the year, He's coming back. And you got the player of the year, Jordan McLeod, who transferred to Texas State. If Jordan McLeod wasn't there, Texas State wouldn't be picked first, right? Because that whole quarterback thing was a fiasco/mess. But right as of right now, all's well that ends well for G.J. Kinney and the Bobcats. All right, let's take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll run through first and second team defenses and some special teamers. A little bit of a cop-out on first team offense. We will do that when we come back right after this. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. Be sure to keep up with my buddy, Chris Gordy, Locked On SEC. This is going to be one of the more exciting college football seasons, and it's all going to be SEC with Texas and Oklahoma joining, and you got new teams coming in to Tiger Stadium. You got A&M and Texas playing. It's just going to be, they're going to find out. Texas and OU are good, right? But they're going to find out what it's like to not, go through Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee, Ole Miss, and then maybe A&M, and then you got to play Texas and Oklahoma, and so it's going to be a thing. Chris Gordy is your guy for Locked On SEC. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. Again, we will recap Sunbelt Media Days for Wednesdays and Thursdays episodes. All right, so quickly, let's go over the first team offense. And again, a little bit of a cop-out. Can we see the final vote totals? Because we got the preseason player of the year, Joey Aguilar, preseason defensive player of the year, and Jason Henderson, linebacker from ODU. But then we got two preseason all Sunbelt first team offense. Come on. So Joey Aguilar for App State is your first team offensive quarterback, and so is Jordan McLeod from Texas State. Not buying that. Show me the votes. Jalen White, your running back from Georgia Southern, and Ishmael Mahdi from Texas State. That's pretty good. Jacob Bear from Arkansas State is, I believe that's the center. We'll see if we can get my guy Landon Burton in there. My guy Landon Burton's not getting any love, and he needs to get love. McKillian Thomas, Arkansas State, also on that offensive line. Cole Potts from JMU, AJ Gilly from the Cajuns, really good guard, and Daniel King from Troy, senior offensive lineman. The tight end is Eli Wilson from App State. And then the wide receivers, Caden Robinson from App State, Derwin Burgess Jr. from Georgia Southern, and Joey Hobart from Texas State. So here you go. You got Jordan McLeod from Texas State. You got Ishmael Mahdi from Texas State, and you got Joey Hobart from Texas State. That's why they're picked to win it, at least. All right. So then let's do first team defense. All right, defensive line. We are actually playing let's see here. And we said two. We got two quarterbacks, but now we're playing the 4-4-4 defense. Santana Hopper from App State, defensive lineman. Nate Marty from Arkansas State, a senior. Justin Rose from Georgia Southern, fifth-year senior. And Isaac Walker, Georgia Southern, redshirt junior. Santana Hopper, just a redshirt sophomore. So he's the youngest one there. Linebackers, 4, Nate Johnson from App State, Marcus Watson Trent from Georgia Southern, Jason Henderson anchoring it in the middle, and then Ben Bell from Texas State. On the back end, Jordan Favors from App, Ethan Johnson from App. That's pretty good. And then Gavin Pringle from Georgia State. Cajuns remember him too soon. And my guy Jaden Voisin from South Alabama. Preseason All Sunbelt, Mason Shipley from Texas State for the kicker. Punter is Ryan Hansen. Return specialist, Zylan Perry. Okay, pretty good. And all-purpose is Ishmael Mahdi. Don't be surprised if Ishmael Mahdi is your Sunbelt Player of the Year. Not also going out on much of a limb. Don't be surprised if Ishmael Mahdi is not your Sunbelt Player of the Year. All right, let's do second team offense. Let's see if I marked it right. I did. Second team offense, Jalen Rayner, no surprise there from Arkansas State. Kane Roberts and Jacques Cross from Arkansas State. Roberts from App State are your running backs. Chandler on the offensive line, you do have Chandler Strong from Georgia Southern, Pitchon Wimbley from Georgia Southern. So a couple guys from Georgia Southern on the second team offensive line. Tashawn Wyatt from JMU, Logan Osborne from Marshall, and Eli Russ from Troy. So Troy's got one on the first team and one on the second team. So they got a pretty good offensive line. Kendall Carr, the tight end, is from Coastal Carolina. 4 wide receivers, Courtney Jackson from Arkansas State, Corey Rucker from Arkansas State, Jamal Pritchett from South Alabama, Cole Wilson from Texas State. So another Texas State wide receiver to go with Joey Hobart. And then you got Courtney Jackson from Arkansas State and Corey Rucker from Arkansas State, going to help out Jalen Rayner, who's starting the season after having such a spectacular freshman year. Let me see if we have, did I get the second team? Oh, second team defense. All right. So the second team defense is again, now we got 5 defensive linemen. Will Whitson from Coastal Carolina, Eric O'Neill from JMU, Jordan Lawson from the Cajuns, Denzel Lowry from ODU, Wacavius Thomas from South Alabama. In the middle, Kevin Swint from Georgia State, Casey Osai from the Cajuns, and Charles Wickles from Arkansas State. Defensive backs, TJ Smith from Georgia Southern, Chauncey Logan, JMU, Tyrone Lewis Jr. from the Cajuns, and Caleb Culp from Texas State. Preseason all Sun Belt special teamers. Kicker is Michael Hughes from App. Robert Cole is a punter from Troy. DeAndre Buchanan is from Georgia Southern, and Jacques Cross is your all-purpose guys. Okay, so let's. I think they in the press release they said who led the way. App State led all teams with 7 first-team picks, while Texas State had 6. Georgia Southern had 5. Arkansas State 3. Arkansas State tallied a conference-high 6 second-team selections, followed by 4 from Georgia Southern and 3 from JMU and the Cajuns. So you see why the teams were basically picked where they were, because some of these teams are very talented and have some obvious selections. Again, I will go back to where I started. These coaches barely know their own team. Meanwhile, the offensive line from the other team. It would be better, because I think the media does it after the season. It'd be better to ask the coaches after the season and compare the two, because even if you're not playing one of these teams, even if you're not playing a couple of the teams, you still are seeing them on film because you're scouting the team that you're playing, and they're bound to, play somebody you're not playing. Also, they may figure out how, someone may not have JMU, but they're playing ODU, and some team from the West is playing ODU, and JMU figures out on how to defend JMU or ODU. And so what did JMU do compared to everybody else was struggling? Something along those lines. Or, you don't play Texas State, but maybe the Cajuns shut down Texas State or did something to, change it. Or the other way around. Maybe Texas State finally beats the Cajuns, and what did Texas State do to beat the Cajuns? Something along those lines. So all the coaches get to see all the teams during the season, not so much before the season. So in other words, their picks would be as good as mine. No. I do find it funny because these guys are so concentrated and so focused, so tunnel vision on their own teams. I can't imagine that they know much about the opposition just yet. They will, just not right now, outside of the guys who are back. That's why you always see the teams, who did well or expected to do well get picked to win it, because they kind of go with chalk. All right. Thank you so much for tuning in. We are above 1,330 subscribers. Really appreciate that. Let's see where we were. 1,332. Again, we're hoping we got a big bump last year at this time heading into the season. So again, fortunately, I'm not attending Sunbelt Media Days, so we'll recap it, and maybe, I don't know if we'll be able to cut up some video. We may have more of an opportunity to do that on Wednesday with the day off. But again, starting a new gig here in Kentucky. So missing everybody down there. Put one on my tab. Enjoy it. Everyone deserves it. It is a long day, and it is different from, the SEC because it's, first of all, everybody gets everybody. That's the best part. If you want to talk to a coach or a player, or all the coaches and all the players, you can. That's the best part about it. But it is a long day. So everyone's down there when I'm recording this. They're having a good time in New Orleans, getting some food, maybe a little gambling, and then they get 2 days of Sunbelt coaches and players. So appreciate you guys watching and subscribing. Please do so, and we'll recap the Sunbelt Media Days over the next couple of episodes. Thanks so much, and you've been watching and listening to Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day.